Vorath closed his eyes and let the memories take him back. 40 years disappeared in a moment. He was young again, strong, proud, standing on an alien world called Earth, with a weapon in his hands and fire in his heart. "The Korean Peninsula," he said to Neela. "That is where my unit was sent. A small piece of land on a large continent. Our commander said it would take 3 days to control. 3 days." He laughed bitterly. "It took 3 days for us to realize we were in trouble." The young cadet leaned forward. Her recording device captured every word. "On the first day, we landed in an empty city. The buildings were tall and strange. The streets were wide and clean. But there were no humans anywhere. We searched every building, every room. Nothing." Vorath remembered the silence. It had been wrong, unnatural, like the world was holding its breath. "Commander Threx ordered us to spread out, secure the area. We followed orders like good soldiers. We thought the humans had run away to the mountains. We thought we would hunt them down later." He shook his head. That night, everything changed. Vorath stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting on his quiet street. But in his mind, he saw a different darkness, a dangerous darkness. The first explosion came at midnight. One of our supply vehicles simply disappeared, a ball of fire in the night. We ran to help, but there was nothing left, just burning metal and dead soldiers. His voice became heavy. Then another explosion, and another. All around us, our equipment was being destroyed. We could not see the enemy. We fired our weapons at shadows, at nothing. Neela spoke softly. "They were using bombs?" "Bombs they had buried in the ground before we arrived," Vorath said. "They knew exactly where we would put our vehicles. They knew our patterns before we did. They had been watching, planning, waiting for weeks." He turned back to face her. "That was when I first heard the name Yoon Hana. She was a human officer, a female, though that meant nothing to us then. She had organized the entire attack. Every bomb, every trap, every ambush, all planned by one human mind." Vorath returned to his seat. His legs were tired. "The next morning, we tried to advance into the mountains. Commander Threx was angry. He wanted revenge. He sent 300 soldiers into the forest to find the humans and kill them." He paused. 50 came back. Neela gasped. "What happened?" "The humans happened," Vorath said simply. "They did not fight us in the open. They hid in the trees, in the rocks, in holes in the ground. They shot at us from places we could not see. When we chased them, they led us into traps. When we stood still, they picked us off one by one." He remembered the screams, his fellow soldiers, falling around him, the sounds of human weapons cracking through the air. There was one human in particular. We called him the Ghost. His real name, I learned later, was Baek Jin-soo. He was what humans call a sniper, a hunter who kills from far away. Vorath held up one finger. One human, one weapon. In 3 days, he killed 47 Kalvani soldiers. 47. And we never saw him. Not once. He was like smoke, like death itself. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the recording device. "We started to lose our minds," Vorath admitted. Soldiers who had conquered worlds began to shake with fear. They could not sleep. Every shadow was an enemy. Every sound was a threat. The humans had put fear inside our heads, and we could not get it out. He looked at Neela with old, tired eyes. "Do you know what broke us the most? It was not the bombs. It was something else," Neela whispered. "What?" "The humans never stopped. Never. We Kalvani need rest. We need sleep. We need time to recover. But the humans, they had something called shifts. When one group got tired, another group took over. Fresh soldiers, alert, ready. They fought us day and night, without end." Vorath leaned back in his chair. "And the conditions, Young one, you cannot imagine. Rain that fell for days, cold that froze our equipment, mud that swallowed our vehicles. We suffered, we complained, we begged for better supplies. His voice dropped low. The humans lived in it, thrived in it. I saw them moving through storms that would kill a Kelvani in hours. I saw them fighting in water up to their chests. I saw them marching through snow with smiles on their faces. He shook his head in wonder. Their bodies should have failed. By all logic, they should have died from the cold, the wet, the hunger. But they did not. They adapted. They endured. They kept coming. Vorath was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with old pain. After 2 weeks, Commander Threx called a meeting. Our forces had taken heavy losses. Morale was breaking. He asked his officers what we should do. He looked at Neela. Do you know what one officer suggested? He said we should bomb the entire region from space, destroy everything, kill every living thing. Neela's eyes went wide. Did you do it? No, Vorath said. Because the humans had moved prisoners into the area. Our own soldiers, captured in battle. If we bombed them, we would kill our own people. He smiled grimly. That was when I understood something important about humans. They do not just fight with weapons. They fight with their minds. They knew we would not sacrifice our own soldiers. They used our honor against us. Vorath stood up and walked to the shelf again. He picked up the green helmet. This helmet belonged to a human soldier. I took it from a battlefield. There is a word written inside. I did not know what it meant then. Now I do. He showed Neela the inside of the helmet. A single word was written there in human letters. It says, family. The humans were not fighting for territory. They were not fighting for power. They were fighting for their families, their children, their home. Vorath put the helmet down gently. That is why they could not be broken. That is why they never surrendered. You can defeat an army. You can destroy a government. But you cannot defeat love. You cannot destroy a parent protecting their child. He turned back to Neela. His 4 eyes were wet with old tears. We thought we were hunters coming to claim new land. But we were wrong. We were thieves trying to steal something precious. And the humans showed us what happens to thieves. The old soldier returned to his chair and sat down heavily. That was only the first month. The worst was still to come. Neela sat frozen. Her whole body was tense. She had come looking for a story about alien warfare. She had found something else entirely. Should I continue? Vorath asked. Neela nodded slowly. She was afraid, but she needed to know. Then let me tell you about the Ghost Company, Vorath said. And the human called Kim Tai-ho. 3 months into the invasion, the Kelvani High Command gave Vorath's unit a new mission. They were to hunt down and destroy a human resistance group that had become a serious problem. This group was called Ghost Company, and they were led by a man named Captain Kim Tai-ho. We thought it would be simple, Vorath told Neela. Ghost Company was small, maybe 30 humans at most. We had 500 soldiers, advanced weapons, and air support. How hard could it be to find 30 humans in the mountains? He laughed without humor. It was impossible. The old alien closed his eyes. The memories were painful, but they demanded to be told. Kim Tai-ho was not like other human officers. Most humans fought with passion, with fire. They screamed battle cries and charged forward. But Kim Tai-ho was different. He was quiet, calm, patient. He never attacked when we expected him to. He always waited for the perfect moment. Vorath remembered his first glimpse of the human captain. A figure standing on a distant ridge, watching the Kelvani forces move through the valley below. Not hiding, not afraid, just watching, studying. We chased them for weeks, through forests, across rivers, over mountains so high and cold that our soldiers collapsed. And always, Ghost Company stayed just ahead of us, close enough to see, too far to catch. He shook his head. They were playing with us, leading us deeper into their territory, wearing us down step by step, and we were too proud to see it. Neela asked softly, "What happened next?" "The psychological attacks began," Vorath said. His voice became darker. "One night we woke up to find strange symbols painted on our tents. Human writing. We did not know what it said. Later, we learned it was a list of names. Our names. Every soldier in the camp." He looked at Neela with haunted eyes. "They had been inside our camp while we slept. They could have killed us all. Instead, they wrote our names and left. That was the message. We are always watching. We can take you whenever we want." The young cadet shivered. It got worse. They started playing sounds in the night. Human music. Strange, sad songs that echoed through the mountains. Some soldiers said it was the voices of the dead. Others said it was ghosts. They were right in a way. Ghost Company lived up to their name. Vorath stood up and paced slowly across the room. Then they took Sergeant Park Soo-jin. She was Ghost Company's medic, a female human who healed wounded soldiers. We captured her during a small battle. We thought we had won a great victory. He stopped pacing and looked at Neela. "So very wrong." His voice became heavy with memory. "We interrogated her for 2 days. We asked where Ghost Company was hiding. We asked about their plans. We offered her food, water, comfort. She refused to speak. Not one word." Vorath remembered the human woman's face. Small, soft, young, but her eyes were hard as stone. On the second night, Commander Threx went to speak with her himself. He was frustrated, angry. He threatened her. He told her she would die if she did not talk. The old alien's voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you know what she did?" She smiled. She looked at our commander, this powerful Kelvani warrior who had conquered worlds, and she smiled. Then she said 5 words that I will never forget. Neela leaned forward. "What did she say?" "She said, 'You should have brought more soldiers.'" Silence filled the room. That night Ghost Company attacked our camp. But it was not like any attack we had seen before. They came from everywhere at once, from the trees, from the ground, from directions we did not know existed. They moved like shadows, like smoke, like death itself. Vorath sat back down. His old body was trembling. The attack lasted only 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, they freed Park Soo-jin, destroyed our communication equipment, killed 47 soldiers, and disappeared into the darkness. We never heard them coming. We never saw them leave. He looked at Neela with broken eyes. Park Soo-jin had been the distraction, the bait. She let herself get captured, knowing her company would come for her. She sat in our prison for 2 days, watching us, learning our routines, counting our guards. And when the time was right, her family came to bring her home. Vorath wiped his eyes with a shaking hand. That was when I first understood the human concept of loyalty. They did not leave their people behind, ever. No matter the cost, a human soldier knew that if they fell, their brothers and sisters would come for them. That is why they fought without fear. They were never alone. He was quiet for a moment. After that night, Commander Threx ordered a retreat. We had lost too many soldiers. Our equipment was destroyed. Our morale was broken. We pulled back to safer territory and waited for reinforcements. Vorath looked toward the window. The sun had set completely now. Darkness filled the world outside. As we retreated, I saw something that has stayed with me for 40 years. Captain Kim Tae-ho was standing on a hill, watching us go. He was close enough that I could see his face clearly. He was not smiling. He was not celebrating. He just watched us with those strange human eyes. The old alien's voice cracked. He let us go. He had the perfect opportunity to attack our retreating forces. He could have killed hundreds more. Do you know why? Neela shook her head. Because he wanted us to live. He wanted us to go back to our command and tell them what happened. He wanted us to spread fear. Every soldier who survived that campaign became a messenger of terror. We told others what we had seen, what the humans could do, and the fear spread like a disease. Vorath leaned back in his chair. Kim Tae-ho understood something that our commanders did not. Wars are not won only with weapons. They are won with minds, with spirits, with will. And in that battle, the humans were winning completely. He looked at Neela with old, tired eyes. I thought that was the worst of it. I thought nothing could be more terrible than Ghost Company and their silent captain. The old soldier shook his head slowly. I was wrong. The worst was still to come, because I had not yet learned what humans call sacrifice. Neela sat in the darkening room. She wanted to stop. She wanted to leave, but she could not move. The story held her like chains. Tell me, she whispered. Vorath nodded slowly. Then I will tell you about a boy named Lee Woo-bin, and the day he taught me what it means to be human. 8 months into the invasion, the Kelvani forces pushed into a major human city. The High Command believed the war was almost won. Human resistance was scattered. Their armies were broken. Victory was close. Vorath knew better. The city fighting was the worst, he told Neela. His voice was hollow, empty. In open fields, we had advantages. Our technology, our weapons, our training. But in cities, everything changed. He stared at the wall, seeing things that were not there. Every building was a fortress. Every window was a threat. Every street corner was an ambush waiting to happen. The humans knew their cities like we knew our own bodies. They moved through them like blood through veins. We stumbled through like blind creatures in the dark. The old alien's hands were shaking now. My unit was assigned to clear a section of the city near a river. There was a building complex there. Apartments, the humans called them. Places where families lived. Our scouts reported humans inside. Some were soldiers. Most were civilians. Women. Children. Old ones. His voice cracked. We were ordered to secure the building. Commander Threx said there might be weapons hidden inside. Important supplies. He ordered us to clear every room, every floor. Vorath closed his eyes. When we arrived, we found the humans trying to escape. They were crossing a bridge to safety. Soldiers were helping civilians move, carrying children, supporting the elderly. They were running from us. He opened his eyes. They were wet with tears. We blocked their escape, surrounded them. There were maybe 200 humans trapped between us and the river. Soldiers, families, all of them looking at us with those strange human eyes. Neela felt cold. What did you do? We prepared to move in. We had them. The fight was over. Or so we thought. He walked to the window and pressed his head against the cold glass. There was a choke point, a narrow passage that connected the apartments to the bridge. Whoever held that passage controlled the escape route. If we took it, the humans would be trapped completely. His breath fogged the window. That was when I first saw Lee Woo-bin. The name hung in the air like a ghost. He was young, so young. Even by human standards, he was barely an adult. A boy playing at being a soldier. Small, thin, nothing special about him. Just another human in a uniform. Vorath turned back to face Neela. While the other soldiers helped the civilians escape, this boy walked to the choke point, alone. He carried a weapon and a bag, nothing else. He looked back at his people, one last time. Then he turned and faced us. The old alien's voice broke. He was going to hold the passage, alone, against all of us, so the others could run. Neela's eyes were wide. That is insane. Yes, Vorath agreed. By every logical measure, it was insane. He was one boy with one weapon. We had 50 soldiers with advanced technology. He should have run. He should have surrendered. He should have done anything except what he did. Vorath returned to his chair and sat down heavily. The fight lasted 6 hours. 6 hours. One human boy against the Calvani Dominion. His voice was filled with wonder and horror. We could not get past him. Every time we pushed forward, he pushed us back. He used the walls, the corners, the shadows. He moved like water. He shot like lightning. When we flanked left, he was there. When we flanked right, he was there. It was like fighting a ghost. Vorath looked down at his hands. He was wounded early. We hit him in the shoulder. I saw the blood. Human blood is red, you know. Bright red, like fire. He should have died. But he did not. He wrapped the wound with cloth and kept fighting. The old soldier's tears fell freely now. 2 hours later, we hit him again. His leg. He could not stand anymore, so he sat down and kept shooting. 4 hours into the fight, he was hit a third time. His chest. I saw him cough blood. I thought it was over. Vorath shook his head. He crawled to a new position and kept fighting. He kept fighting. One human boy, bleeding from 3 wounds, holding back an army. The room was completely silent. By the 6th hour, the civilians were gone. All of them. Every man, woman, and child had crossed the bridge to safety. The other soldiers had escaped too. Li Wubin had done his job. He could have surrendered then. We would have given him medical care. We would have let him live. Vorath's voice dropped to a whisper. He did not surrender. Neela could barely breathe. We finally broke through his position. Our soldiers rushed in. I was near the front. I reached the door first, and there he was, sitting against the wall, his weapon empty, his body broken, blood everywhere. Vorath looked at Neela with eyes that had seen too much. He was holding something in his hand, a small device with a button. I did not know what it was, but I saw his face, and I understood. The old alien's voice shattered. He smiled. This dying boy looked at me, at all of us, and he smiled. Then he said something in his language. I did not understand the words then. Later, I learned what he said. Neela whispered. What did he say? He said, "Tell my mother I was brave." Tears rolled down Vorath's gray cheeks. Then he pressed the button. The explosives he had placed around the room detonated. The passage collapsed. 20 of our soldiers died instantly. I survived only because I was still at the door. The blast threw me backward into the street. Vorath was sobbing now. 40 years of pain pouring out. One human boy, one small young broken human boy. He killed over 100 of our soldiers that day. He saved 200 of his people. And he died with a smile on his face. The old soldier covered his eyes with his hands. That night, Commander Threx received word from High Command. They were considering withdrawal from Earth. The cost was too high. The humans could not be broken. He lowered his hands and looked at Neela with red, swollen eyes. We had better weapons, better ships, better technology, but we did not have whatever Li Wubin had. We did not have that fire inside. That willingness to die for something bigger than ourselves. Vorath reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of metal. It was bent and burned. I found this in the rubble. It was part of his uniform. I have carried it with me for 40 years. I do not know why. Maybe to remember. Maybe to understand. Maybe because I owe him that much. He held the metal gently, like it was made of glass. I dream of his face sometimes. That smile. Those eyes. He was not afraid. He was not angry. He was at peace. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly why. Vorath put the metal back in his pocket. That is what humans call sacrifice. That is what makes them different from every other species in the galaxy. They do not fight for survival. They fight for each other. They fight for love. and there is nothing in the universe more powerful than that." Neela was crying now too. Her recording device sat forgotten on the table. "What happened next?" she asked in a broken voice. Vorath wiped his eyes. The war ended. Not with victory, not with surrender, with something else entirely. He took a deep breath. "Let me tell you how it ended, and why I keep these human things in my home." Neela sat in silence. Her face was wet with tears. Her hands were still shaking. She had come looking for a military history lesson. She had found something far more important. Vorath looked at the young cadet with gentle eyes. The anger was gone now. The pain had faded to a dull ache. After 40 years, it was time to finish the story. "The war ended 3 months after Li Wubin died," he said. "But it did not end the way our government told everyone. They said we achieved our objectives. They said it was a successful campaign. They said we withdrew by choice." He shook his head. They lied. The old alien stood up and walked to his shelf of human artifacts. He touched them gently, one by one. "We did not win. We did not even fight to a draw. The humans beat us. Completely. Totally. And we ran away before they could finish us." Neela stared at him. "But the official records say—" "The official records are lies," Vorath interrupted. "Written by politicians who never held a weapon, who never saw a human fight, who never watched their friends die in the dark." He picked up the worn photograph of Ghost Company. The final meeting happened on a cold morning near the ocean. Commander Threx was ordered to negotiate a ceasefire. I was there as his guard. We met the human delegation in a ruined building between our lines. Vorath's eyes grew distant. Captain Kim Tae-ho was there. I recognized him immediately. He looked older than before, tired, scarred, but his eyes were the same, calm, patient, watching everything. The old soldier set down the photograph. Commander Threx tried to negotiate terms. He talked about boundaries, resources, future relations. He tried to make it sound like we were equals, like we were choosing to leave. Vorath laughed bitterly. Kim Tae-ho listened without speaking. When Threx finished, the human captain stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the ruined city. Then he turned and spoke. The old alien's voice changed. It became quieter, more respectful. He said, "Go home. Tell your people what happens when you come to Earth. Tell them about the cities you could not hold, the soldiers you could not break, the spirits you could not crush." Vorath swallowed hard. Then he said something I will never forget. He said, "Tell them we were being gentle. Tell them this was us showing restraint. Tell them what happens if they ever come back." Neela's breath caught in her throat. Commander Threx asked what he meant. Kim Tae-ho smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was sad. He said, "We have weapons we did not use. Bombs that can poison the land for 1,000 years. Diseases that could end your species in months. We fought you with rifles and courage because we wanted to give you a chance to leave." Vorath's voice broke. He said, "We are not monsters. We do not want to destroy. We just want to live, to love our families, to watch our children grow. Go home and leave us in peace. That is all we ask." The old alien wiped his eyes. "We left. Every ship, every soldier, every piece of equipment. We ran away from a small blue planet full of soft creatures, and we never went back." He returned to his chair and sat down slowly. The government buried the truth. They rewrote history. They called it a strategic withdrawal, a successful mission. They gave medals and promotions. They pretended we had won. Vorath looked at Neela with hard eyes. But the soldiers knew. Every Kelvani who fought on Earth knew the truth. We had been beaten by a species we thought was weak. We had been humbled by creatures we thought were primitive. And we carried that shame in silence. The room was quiet for a long moment. "What happened to you after the war?" Neela asked softly. Vorath smiled. It was a small, sad smile. "I came home. I tried to forget. For 20 years, I told no one what I had seen. I buried the memories. I pretended it never happened." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was old and yellow with age. Then this arrived. He handed the paper to Neela. She unfolded it carefully. The writing was strange, human letters that she could not read. "It is from Park Soo-jin," Vorath said, "the medic we captured. The one who smiled at Commander Threx. She found my name somehow, tracked me down across the stars." His voice was thick with emotion. "She invited me to a memorial, a ceremony to honor the dead from both sides. She said the humans wanted to remember everyone who fell. Even us." Neela looked up. "Did you go?" "I did not want to. I was afraid, ashamed, but something inside me needed to see, needed to understand." Vorath took back the letter and held it gently. "I went to Earth, alone. I walked into a place filled with humans, former soldiers, families of the dead, people who had every reason to hate me." Tears rolled down his gray cheeks. "They did not hate me. They welcomed me. They shared food with me, told me stories about their fallen friends, asked about my lost comrades. They treated me like a guest, like a fellow soldier, like a person." His voice cracked completely. "I found a wall with names carved into it. Thousands of names, human and Kelvani, side by side. The same honor, the same memory. I found Li Wubin's name. I stood there and wept like a child." Vorath was sobbing now. "Park Soo-jin found me there. She did not speak. She just took my hand and stood beside me. Two soldiers, crying together for all the ones who never came home." He looked at Neela with broken eyes. "That is what humans are. That is why they cannot be defeated. They are not cruel. They do not fight from hatred. They fight from love. Love for their families, their homes, their world. And when the fighting is over, they can forgive. They can heal. They can welcome a monster into their home and call him friend." Vorath pointed to the photograph on his shelf. "Ghost Company sent me that picture, after the memorial. A gift. They said they wanted me to remember them as they were, not as killers, not as ghosts, just people. Young people who loved life and fought to protect it." He smiled through his tears. "I have kept their picture for 20 years. I look at it every day. I remember their faces, their names, their sacrifice." The old soldier stood up one final time. He walked to Neela and placed his hand on her shoulder. "That is the truth they do not teach in your academy. Humans are not weak. They are not primitive. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. But not because of their weapons, not because of their technology." He looked into her eyes. "They are dangerous because they love, because they sacrifice, because they fight for each other with everything they have. And because when the war is over, they can look at their enemy and see a person worth saving." Vorath's voice dropped to a whisper. "If you take nothing else from this, remember what I am about to say. Humans are not monsters, and that is what makes them terrifying. They will suffer anything, sacrifice everything, not from hatred, from love, and there is no force in the universe more powerful than that." He stepped back and looked out the window. Night had fallen completely. Stars filled the sky. "Now go, young one. Write your thesis. Tell the Academy whatever you want, but remember the truth, and pray that the humans never have a reason to visit our world." Neela stood up slowly. Her legs were weak. Her mind was spinning. She gathered her recording device and walked to the door. At the threshold, she stopped. "Thank you," she whispered. Vorath nodded, but did not turn around. Mila left in silence. The old soldier stood alone in his small home. He looked at the photograph of Ghost Company. 5 young humans smiling at the camera. Alive, happy, unaware of what was coming. He touched the image gently. "Sleep well," he whispered. "You beautiful monsters." Then Vorath turned off the lights and let the darkness embrace him. The war was over. The story was told. And somewhere across the stars, a small blue planet full of strange creatures continued to spin through the cosmos. Waiting. Watching. The old alien sat alone in his room. His gray skin had become pale with age. His 4 eyes, once sharp like a hunter, now looked tired and distant. Vorath was his name. He had been a soldier once, a proud warrior of the Kelvani Dominion. Now he was just an old creature waiting for death. A knock came at his door. He did not move at first. Visitors were rare these days. The war had ended 40 years ago, but people still avoided him. They said he talked too much about the humans. They said he had gone soft in his old age. They said many things. The knock came again. Vorath slowly stood up. His legs hurt. Everything hurt. He walked to the door and opened it. A young Kelvani female stood there. She was small and eager. Her eyes were bright with the fire of youth. She carried a recording device and a bag full of documents. "Veteran Vorath?" she asked. Her voice was respectful, but excited. "Yes," he said. "And you are?" "My name is Mila. I am a cadet at the military academy. I am writing about the Terran conflict for my final study. I was hoping you could share your experiences with me." Vorath stared at her for a long moment. The Terran conflict. That was what they called it now. Such a clean name for such dirty memories. "Come in," he said finally. Mila entered his small home. She looked around with curious eyes. The place was simple. Old furniture, dim lights. But on the walls and shelves, there were strange objects. A helmet made of green metal. A piece of cloth with colors and symbols, a small medal on a chain, a photograph of creatures with soft skin and strange faces. "Are these human things?" Mila asked. Her voice was quiet now. "Yes," Vorath said. He sat down in his chair and pointed to another seat. "Sit. I will tell you what you want to know. But I warn you, young one, what I say will change how you see everything." Mila sat down. She turned on her recording device. "I am ready." Vorath closed his eyes. The memories came flooding back like dark water. "When the war began," he said, "we thought it would be easy. The humans were a young species. They had only been traveling among the stars for a short time. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were primitive. Our commanders laughed when they saw the reports." He opened his eyes and looked at Mila. "I laughed too. We all did. We were fools." Mila leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "I mean we looked at humans and saw small, soft creatures. They had no claws, no armor on their skin, no venom. They needed machines to survive in space. They needed clothes to stay warm. We thought they were weak." Vorath stood up slowly and walked to the shelf. He picked up the old photograph. In it, 5 humans stood together. They were smiling. Some had their arms around each other. They looked happy. "This picture," Vorath said, "was taken 2 days before these humans killed 300 of my people. 300 Kelvani warriors, dead by 5 humans." Mila's eyes went wide. "That is impossible." "I thought so too, until I saw it happen." He put the photograph down and returned to his seat. His old bones made cracking sounds as he sat. "Let me tell you about the day we arrived at Earth," he said. "Our fleet was massive. 200 warships, 50,000 soldiers. We had conquered 12 worlds before Earth. We had never lost a war. Not once." Vorath's voice became distant. He was no longer in his small room. He was back on the ship, looking down at the blue planet below. Earth was beautiful. Blue and green and white. It looked peaceful. Our scanners showed billions of humans living on the surface. Billions of soft, weak creatures with short lives and fragile bodies. He shook his head slowly. Commander Threx gave the order to begin landing. He expected the humans to surrender quickly, maybe fight a little, then give up. That is what other species did. They saw our power, and they submitted. It was logical. It was smart. Vorath looked directly at Neela. His 4 eyes were hard now. But humans are not logical. Humans are not smart in the way we understand smart. They are something else. Something we had never seen before. What are they? Neela asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Vorath was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. When we landed, we expected fear. We expected panic. We expected surrender. Instead, we found empty cities, silent streets, no humans anywhere. We thought they had run away. We thought they were hiding like scared animals. It was not a happy sound. We were wrong. They were not hiding. They were watching. They were waiting. They were preparing. Vorath leaned forward in his chair. His voice dropped low. We thought we were predators coming to hunt weak prey. We walked into their world like we owned it. We spread out our forces. We got comfortable. And then the night came. He paused. The room felt cold. That first night, young one, I learned something that I have never forgotten. I learned that humans do not run from monsters. They do not hide from death. They do not surrender to fear. Neela was frozen in her seat. What do they do? Vorath's answer came like a whisper from a grave. They become the monsters. They become the death. They become the fear. And then they come for you in the dark. He sat back in his chair and closed his eyes again. That first night, we lost 2,000 soldiers, 2,000 trained Kalvani warriors. They caught us off guard. And then, we knew. Killed in the darkness by creatures we thought were weak. And that, young Neela, was only the beginning. The recording device hummed softly in the silent room. Neela did not move. She did not speak. She only stared at the old soldier with new eyes. Vorath opened his eyes and gave her a thin smile. Still want to hear more? Neela swallowed hard. Her hands were shaking, but she nodded. Good, Vorath said. Then let me tell you about hell.